Hello, welcome to Star Wars Spelt Out. I'm your host, Josh Chapman, and today it's the first proper episode, Thrawn Stars episode. I realised I hadn't thought of any way to introduce that because we didn't have it. We didn't have a title last time, so we went with Thrawn Stars and we did a little artwork and people seem to dig it. So yeah, we're here to sort of chat about the Ahsoka show that's just dropped. So it's just the A team tonight. Catherine's here. Hi, Catherine.
Hello, and Lothcat, how cute was the little Loth kitty?
I knew that was where you were going to start on that. That's okay. So it's just Catherine tonight. Matt Mole was going to join us, but he's got some pressing things he's got to take care of. So hello, Matt, if you're listening. I didn't even bother sending the link. You sort of seemed to think that, you know, maybe he'd make it, and then he was sort of like, nah, I don't think I can make it. But I was almost going, oh, just send us a voicemail. And I'm going, you know what? That's just too much hassle. You could just wait till next week. But he was already sending me things about, like, did you know that this guy plays this guy in Rebels, and this is the same guy, or this guy was in Mando as well. Like, he's apparently so busy, flat out, he hasn't got time to podcast, but he's got time to message me Ahsoka trivia.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. That sounds like a very me thing as well.
Yeah, well, you're just like, well, I can't be picking fun at people getting excited about small details on TV shows they like. We should address the first major thing that changed is that we're no longer the privileged ones in Australia. We're not the special 6 p.m., 7 p.m. drop people anymore.
Okay, Bobby I. First off, pay your writers and actors. Secondly, what are you doing to us, mate? I thought we were your favourite podcast.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Oh.
I mean...
So, yeah.
I'm not surprised, and I'm a little surprised it's taken them this long to do it.
Yeah. Obviously, the American market is, you know, their biggest market, so they, you know, dropping it during a time that's prime time, you know, to use the old speak, does make more sense, prime time American time. But yes, it made today getting through work a bit more getting through work.
It's a little bit more like, well, there's spoilers floating around, you know, because in the old ways, it would drop sort of drop 5 p.m., 6 p.m. So at least in my house, that's when I'm making dinner, kids are arriving, there's no hanging out on social media anyway, so you get the kids to bed, I can sit down, bung it on, watch it, and then catch up with you guys and we chit-chat, and it's pretty much just fresh. At least at this instance, I watched it in my lunch break at work today. Obviously, it was a little bit longer, so I had to sort of, you know, take a little bit of gravitas, but I did have some late meetings, so it all kind of balanced out in the end. So I was all right. So I was kind of in the clear by then, but I'm not always going to have that luxury. Obviously, you don't have that luxury.
Nope.
So it's a little bit more of a minefield for you. But, I mean, it kind of feels like, I mean, Game of Thrones was like that, and I would, you know, not that I was as concerned about Game of Thrones spoilers and things, but, yeah, it's...
I think the difference is that even though all of our friends watch Game of Thrones, every one of our friends watch Star Wars, and on socials they talk about Star Wars, whereas the Game of Thrones talk wasn't as much. And also you wouldn't have other people wanting to talk to you about Game of Thrones during the day.
Yeah.
But whereas with Star Wars, yeah, I messaged one of my friends who's also a teacher at another school about the time change, and he was like, "Yep, I've just got to make sure my students know to be cool and not to tell me anything." Yeah, you just got like
a bunch of loudmouths in there as well. Who could? Do you reckon there was any? I mean, you know, you're not high school. There must be some Star Wars fans in there. Are there any kids? Well, there's no phones allowed at school, so they wouldn't be able to pull the phone out at lunchtime and watch it anyway, would they? Or are you looking at me like as if that's a thing that can really be enforced? There's a couple of nerds in the media room bunging it on.
Not so much at my school. There's not so many fans. But that same rule actually isn't at private schools. That's just a government mandate.
Oh,
No
okay.
phones from start to the end of day. So yes, there's potential, but yes, you're right that during breaks or whatever, there is potential for students to watch things,
Yeah. Yeah.
or teachers.
You're like, well, maybe I could swing this. I mean, it's a little bit tricky. Not obviously, we had a double episode for the premiere, so a little bit
Yeah.
trickier to do that. But look, like I said, I'm surprised that they didn't do it from the jump with all this Star Wars stuff. I didn't see what they really gained by going at midnight. I mean, it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't mean that we can still watch it the normal time we do. Obviously, there's some dancing around, but it's not as if now it's on at 4 a.m. or something like that, which would have been really annoying. So at least that's helpful. But at the same time, like I think it's obviously got to do with the strike. They can't promote it as much. So now if they put it at a time where people are actively sort of bipping about it, they can get a little bit more heat off the back of that. And I went on to the timeline after it dropped, and people we knew were reacting pretty. There was no real spoilery stuff. There was one or two things talking about details. It didn't really feel like a detail. It was all something that was already in the trailer anyway. I didn't sort of look at someone and go, "Ooh, lucky I hadn't seen that. Lucky I'd already watched it, and you were dropping this." But it didn't feel like just to talk about the show in general. It didn't feel like there was a big hammer drop. Oh my god, something unbelievably, I can't believe it happened anyway. Well, nothing like that happened anyway.
No, like, so, yeah, nothing that, if anyone had said anything from tonight's episode, I don't think, you're right, that no spoilers or anything really. That might be coming, of course.
Oh, look, I think it will. I think there'll be, and the thing is also that I think I saw 99% of the footage I'd seen prior to this were in these 2 episodes as well. I didn't really think there was... I mean, I have to go back and have a look and dissect. That doesn't include TV spots. But as far as trailer goes, I feel like I saw almost all of it in these 2 episodes, for the most part.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, that there's a lot from these 2 episodes, which is always a good thing. I do like it when trailers for movies or TV shows are really just from the early parts or the first few episodes, because then you go, right, it's almost like, right, that's out of the way.
Yeah.
Now let's get into it.
I mean, I was waiting for... I mean, let's just jump all over the place. Who really cares? I mean, I was waiting at the end for a stinger. They kind of got to the... And I'm going, is this the bit where they're going to... And it kind of felt like it nearly ended 2 or 3 times at the end of the second episode, going, oh, they'll drop a sting, they'll show a Thrawn, they'll do up a something, they'll drop a name, but it never really happened. It just kind of, So what do you reckon? You only just finished watching it about 5 minutes ago, didn't you? So it's it's fresher in your mind.
So you literally went, hey, when you finished, send me just buzz me, and like literally the credits had just started. So.
There you go. I knew. Well, it was just when AFL 360 finished at the house, so
I'm overall pretty positive. I was sort of sitting there going, oh, it's not. Oh, I'm going to say this really bad, but yeah, I'm really quite positive about it. I was into that first episode. The second episode, I thought, built well on it.
Mm-hmm.
Admittedly, there were a few things in the first episode where I went, that's from Phantom Menace, that's from Rogue One, like just direct shot for shot.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I thought it was good vibe. It was. I liked it.
Yeah, I was the same.
Overall, pretty positive.
Yeah, I was the same, and especially coming off the back of Mando, I was like, I know exactly what the purpose of this series is. There's a distinctive threat, there's a distinctive drive, there's a distinctive mission. It all seems to be pretty clear about how it's going. I thought some of the pacing was weird. I thought, I don't want to use the term slow burn because people use that for Andor, and I think it worked for Andor. This just kind of felt like it was just sort of slow without the burn in places. There were shots where it was just like a lot of of Ahsoka and Sabine just making weird, like staring down each other and kind of saying stuff with expressions. And I think Filoni was trying to sort of bring some gravitas to certain stuff, but I just don't think he's quite got the chops. He's not a Gilroy. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't have the weight behind the slowness that an Andor does. So it just kind of felt like they were kind of just standing in an empty room, just kind of looking at each other. You know, and then you kind of have a hologram of Hera in the middle, and then she's like staring around and looking at everybody. There was a lot of like, it just felt like there was like, I'm looking at this person, Hera's looking at Sabine, Sabine's looking at Ahsoka, Ahsoka's looking back at Hera. There was just, it felt like that happened a bunch of times. The first episode, they all felt a little bit stiff. The second episode definitely felt a bit better. But even like when Baylan shows up, Ray Stevenson's character at the start, and they come through those doors, he looked like he had a stick up his butt or something. The way he was walking, his posture was really weird. And he was sort of like really, I don't know, it just looked really strange to me. Maybe I'm just nitpicking stuff. But yeah, I was very happy with the way, but it did feel like sort of Rebels season. Like, if you didn't know what Rebels is, do you reckon you could just come in? Like, if I showed this to Kat, who's never watched Rebels, she's watched Mando, and I'm like, oh, well, it's like, you remember Ahsoka was in that Mando episode? She's like, oh, yeah, I think so. If I showed these two episodes to her, I think I'd just get a lot of I think she'd start tuning out pretty quick. Like, I think it just wouldn't have gripped her as a casual watcher.
Yeah, so, like, Lothal, you should be like, well, what's the deal with this planet? Battle of Lothal. Who's Ezra? Why are those people all painted on the wall?
And the crawl. Cat. And the crawl that's not a crawl.
Oh, the crawl was cool.
But like,
that.
Can you just do a crawl? Do the crawl. Wait. Do a crawl. Why do we have to have a different crawl? It's Star Wars. It's such is it just like, no, that's sacred. That's for movies.
Well, for the movies, they only did it, the crawl as we know it, for the saga movies.
Yeah.
Rogue One got nothing. Solo got this little thing, but it wasn't quite a crawl. This had something, and in some ways I felt it had that allusion to the Clone Wars. I was waiting for that.
Whoa!
Tom
Look
Kane.
out! It's
whoa! Waiting for that, but I did like it, and it, with the red, it was okay. This is a bit of a cool intro, but yeah, like the Witches of Dathomir, people would be going, "What? Who's that?
Yeah.
What's that?"
It kind of did play it.
The Force.
It did play like a little bit where it kind of like when it lent into its wackiness, to Star Wars wackiness, it did acknowledge it, and there was someone there kind of going, what's that? What does that mean? Does that mean you're a witch? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it did feel, it felt sparse. Like, it felt like Lothal was sparse, the design was sparse, the ships felt sparse. Ahsoka's ships felt particularly sparse. It was just like a huge empty room with a hologram, and then they put the thing up, and it just felt like it was a lot of people standing in big empty areas a lot of the time. I don't know whether that's a volume thing or a extras thing or what it was. Like, maybe that'll change a little bit as we go on later on. But like the episode 2, it didn't seem as much, because then they went to like the shipyards and stuff, and that was quite cool. So
yeah. And I have to say, I felt like things were little less volumey. That's not a word. But it didn't, how sometimes on Mando you felt the walls there without seeing them. You felt those constraints. You didn't feel them quite so much because, in Ahsoka's ship, she went through a door. So there was that little bit of extra.
I almost feel like that was purposely
dimension
done to like show the space and the figures with a lot of space around them, to kind of be like, hey, it's not just a close-up shot with a screen behind them of a desert or whatever, So, but perhaps it was that. But the sort of the weird sort of pace in places and the sparseness of it sort of dragged the pace down in places, and I kind of got it, why they were doing that, and I think it worked for the most part. But yeah, it was. Just going back to the very start, if you're carrying a high end prisoner somewhere, and some ship just tells you that they want to get on board, don't board. Don't let the ship board. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing, dumbass?
Yeah, you know they're not Jedi, like, and what 6 security people,
Yeah.
6 against a Jedi?
Shoot him out of the
Yeah,
sky.
nah.
Shoot him out of the sky.
Or just go,
Nah.
yeah, nah, mate. You know, see you later. We're on our way.
Tell us a little bit more information about what you want. You're not going to communicate.
Yeah.
Put the video screen on at least. Let's get a look at you. Oh, look, you got some creepy gear on. Yeah, I don't think so. I know it's to move the story along and do all that kind of stuff, but I just felt like that was a pretty dumb move, Mr. Captain. Maybe it's trying to show a little bit of New Republic stupidity or whatever it is, but
hubris.
a little bit of
I think
there was a lot of that going on. So I think that's sort of, I think that's going to be an underlying kind of story line going on in the background. But I thought, Ray Stevenson was weird at the start. Like he moved weird, he talked weird, he definitely loosened up as it went on and seemed okay. The Amel and the Sniffers girl, the Apprentice, I can't remember what her name was, Sita or I'll have to look it up. She was cool. And I liked how she had the Padawan braid as well, that she really just, it's like, this is my apprentice. I'm kind of, like I said, I'm not fully bad. I'm still doing it my way.
Definitely he is training her like he was trained. So he's got like the Jedi Order, doing it that way, but there's a little bit of something, like a little bit of, I want some power for myself, and that's why their blades have the tinge of red, so that's why they're orange. So it's good. I like it.
She's a bit sort of
I like it as a different take.
Well, I just like the fact that she's a little, she seems quite unpredictable and a little maybe not unhinged is quite right, but she's not sort of like evil, but she's definitely unpredictable and could kind of could kind of just go off and when needed. Like, you're not quite seeing everything that she's capable of, and it's sort of, I thought that was quite interesting that they hadn't really, it seems like he's kind of got she respects the master apprentice sort of dynamic at the moment, but at the same time, I feel like that if it's not convenient for her, she'll just go, all right, I'm the captain now. So I thought that was quite cool. She was quite interesting. But it was,
cool haircut too.
Yeah, cool haircut. You could pull that one off, Catherine. There's a Catherine cosplay, Japan 2025. You just get the fringe, rock the fringe going.
Fringe, oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah. So we pick up with Ahsoka, and it's sort of a bit of wild goose hunty. You got to get the key to do the key, and they sort of it's what they sort of use as the fall to bring the band back together. We talked about last week of like bringing the band back together. So it's very Hera, Sabine, and Ahsoka starting this off. I thought Hera for the most part looked pretty good. She's a bit flat, Mary Winstead. I kind of feel like Hera has a little bit more attitude. Maybe there's not quite enough attitude to go. She's a bit more cocky. She seems a bit sort of a little bit like she has to be the grown up in the thing. But then I feel like Ahsoka's being the grown up, and then Sabine. Is she like 12? Like, she acts like a 12-year-old. How old is Sabine supposed to be in this? She's the same age as Ezra. Is she the same age as Ezra?
No, she's a couple of years older than Ezra, I think, is what's implied in Rebels.
Because Ezra's always the same. Because Ezra was born the same time as Luke and Leia, wasn't he? Was that the...
Yeah.
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 So by the time this comes around, if Luke's 20...
She's in her 20s, easy. Middle,
late 20s. If Luke and Leia are in their mid to late 20s by this time, what time have Return of the Jedi? They're 20 in A New Hope, 23, 24 Return of the Jedi. This is 27, 26, 27 Luke is. So Sabine's somewhere between 28, 29, maybe 30.
Something like that, yeah.
She's pretty angsty for a 30-year-old. Making some pretty poor judgments.
Yeah.
Like, here's the precious map that's going to fight that the whole bunch of people are looking for that can lead to Grand Admiral Thrawn. Oh, I'm going to take that. Oh, no, don't take that. That would be a really bad idea. Oh, I'm just going to take it anyway.
Yeah. Look, I'll defend's the wrong word, but go, well, they didn't say, "Oh, we know other people are after it. I had to fight people for it." At no point did they
Maybe
say that.
she didn't. I'll have to go back and watch the game tape on that.
They're just like, "No, oh, you should do it here."
But even when she doesn't
They
turn up
didn't.
she doesn't turn up to the ceremony and stuff, right? And then they play like the punk girl, the right girl music. Like she's a bit punk rock. She doesn't like authority. It's like, dude, you're not 15 anymore. You're not slamming the door on your mum and dad and turning your music up. You're 27, 28 years old now. It's time to maybe this is the coming of age. Like I get that she's annoyed at Ahsoka. And it was quite interesting that just playing onto that she was Ahsoka's apprentice as well, which is quite fascinating.
Yes, but then, later in the episode, when she's talking to the droid, who's David Tennant droid,
The Tenet 1000.
he,
The T1000, the Tenet 1000.
yep. And he's said, "Yeah, you don't have the talent.
Yeah, you're literally the
Basically,
least. You're
she's
the least like got the least amount
not
of
a
ability,
force wielder."
which is quite. Which I quite like because I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of. I don't look at the discourse. I don't really care, but I'm sure there's a bunch of like, how can she be a Jedi? She's not even a Jedi. She can't even use the Force. Blah blah blah. They're openly just like, yeah, she hasn't really got much ability, but she did it anyway. So now what? Yep. Now what?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay. Like he's having a crack. I was the worst player on my cricket team, and the coach still helped me out. So
Yep, we've all been there. Worst player on a team.
yeah, get picked last. That's what she got picked last, but she's still there. Like, why not?
Yeah. And I think it's a worthwhile thing to be training because the force lies in all of us. Some people stronger than others. Some people might be able to tap into it, others not. Maybe she can't tap into it, but she had some training first with Kanan and now obviously with Ahsoka. I still can't figure out the timeline of when that happened, but I hope we get told that because I know this is an annoying fan canon part of me that I'm frustrated by. Well, when did this happen? Was it before A New Hope? And then where was Ahsoka during New Hope? And surely, during the rebellion, if she hears of a person called Luke Skywalker, she'd be interested in going and have a chat with him.
Yeah, no, these are all valid questions. Who knows what at when is crucial for Star Wars. But I mean, I like the idea. I mean, it's clear that they've got beef. There's some serious beef going on. It seems to be stemming from at least the result of it is that basically Ahsoka's just like, I'm not training you anymore. I'm out of here. And Sabine's just like, thanks a lot. I mean, I don't think it's because she's crap. I think there's more to it. So I would like to think that maybe it's like, well, actually, you're not crap, but you've got the potential to actually do some harm or not. If we give you access to this power, it could actually be quite bad because whatever. You've got a bad attitude. You've actually got more power than you think. You're too old. You've got attachments. Whatever. You're a Mandalorian. All this other stuff. So I don't think it's just because it's like, well, you just can't use the Force. You're a bit rubbish. I think it's actually like, well, you can't use it much at the moment, but if we open you up to this, we might not be able to close this box anymore. Which it's an interesting concept, and perhaps this is what plays into later in the thing. It's the old run in, as they say. That she manages to wield the power and blah 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 and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's an interesting thing. But I do like the idea that at the moment they're just openly acknowledging that she's the worst. She's playing back pocket, or she's on the bench. She's playing wing defense or something.
Wing defense.
Yeah.
Hey, yep. Wing defense.
Yeah,
that's where I played.
What a surprise! The Star Wars fans were playing in the crappiest places on the football or netball field. Look that up. People in other countries. So yeah, so it's cool. So basically, it seems like get map. Dathomir map is map 2, other galaxy, where they assume Thrawn is. So another thing which actually is quite clear, or I asked the question during the show to myself while I was watching it, and then it kind of got answered. Because it seems that no one knows where Thrawn is. He hasn't actually got in touch with anybody. All these rumors seem to be just hearsay. and it seems to be the fact that the lady witch, Morgan or whatever her name is using some kind of magic-y thing, and that's how she's acknowledging that he's around, and there's some sort of connection between them. So it's basically coming through her that Thrawn is either alive, because as far as everybody else is concerned, he's off the table completely.
Yeah. So the rumors might be coming from the fact that she's searching for Thrawn, and that
just the names
telephoned into. So she may have some connection, or just connecting to some kind of whatever's going on in that other galaxy. Do we think that's the galaxy? Does Thrawn come from the Star Wars galaxy or another galaxy, and he's just sort of slipped across?
I don't know. Originally. Again, this feels like a Chiss thing. This is where we need Matt Mould. This is where he would actually be able to answer this question. He's probably yelling at the thing right now as he's listening to this. Hi, Matt. We don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's implied it's another galaxy. So if it is the Chiss in another... I mean, they do say it's people from another galaxy. So if it was them and they've come and then they've left or whatever else, maybe it's our galaxy. I always thought that would be the worst. I mean, that would be... The moment Star Wars would be done for me is the moment they include Earth in some way. I'd be like, nah, I don't want to include Earth in any. Like, don't even hint at it. Don't even do it. That would probably be more cross than anything else. It's like, it's a planet. It's called Earth, and they're like, oh my god, you've just ruined all the fantasy of it now.
Yeah.
It was bad enough in Battlestar Galactica when they went back to Earth. At the end. Spoilers for Battlestar Galactica at the end.
Yeah, because they but the cool thing was that they were thousands of years ago and got there.
Yeah, I'll let it slide. Yes.
Yeah. But it could be because they talk about Chiss being in a very different part of space. I mean, is that implying a different galaxy? But how did he get from one galaxy to the other, or are they on the outskirts of our galaxy? But it's implied the Chiss have a very long reach, and they interact with a lot of different civilizations which have long reaches. But admittedly, their part of space is very hard to navigate, and the only way that they are able to navigate is through the use of force-sensitive creatures or people that they call Skywalkers.
Do you reckon they're going to come around on that? Do you reckon they're going to be like, and that's why we use that? Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, this is...
I think it's... Yeah.
I'd have to get the star map out, but obviously this isn't unknown regions. With the First Order sort of camp out in the unknown regions, and I think that'll play into it. I think there's First Order stuff bubbling away underneath here. So, yes, the general crux of the show is that they've found a way to get in touch with this galaxy that they think that Thrawn is, and if Thrawn's there, Ezra's there as well. So this is why they got the band back together. And Sabine and Ahsoka are basically starting this with Hera kind of boots on the ground in the New Republic, doing stuff from there with Chopper, who still looks like a cartoon. Does like the Chopper just doesn't look like he's even like he's doing all the little. I thought that was quite cute. I liked that. I had no problem with it. I thought it was cute when they were flying out and he's doing it. But I'm just going like, he doesn't look like a real droid. He just looks like a cartoon that's been inserted into this thing.
It's sort of the right amount of sort of goofy for me. Chopper was the right amount, like it wasn't over the top. That Lizzo and Jack Black episode, I'm sorry I keep going back there, but that was the weirdest thing to watch while jet lagged. That's too far wacky.
Yep.
This was the right amount of Star Wars goofiness.
Yeah, it was in the parameters of
Chopper with his little arms.
Yeah, and he does a little like, he does a little, the fact he had to throw the thing. Like he had to throw it, like because they're going back to get a shot. I'm like, oh, okay, he's going to direct the computer to shoot it across that they always do in Star Wars. It's like, no, he physically has to get his little antenna arms and pick out the thing, and then he's like, brr, 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 brr. He's like, oh, I haven't. Look in the other box or under here, and like that felt more. That's when she felt more like Hera when she was doing some action.
Yeah.
That was her best moment, I thought, and fair enough. Other times, Mary Winstead is literally just sort of standing in a room, talking on a hologram kind of thing. The second episode was much better for her. She got out boots on the ground when they went through the factory and stuff as well, and the action picked up. She was much better, but she was bloody stiff as a board on that first episode, and I think Rosario Dawson was pretty bloody stiff as a board in the first one as well. And she's sort of, she's still, she doesn't quite have the sparkle. I'll be curious if they do go. I'm curious if they go back and they flash back to a younger Ahsoka, and the younger Ahsoka kind of nails it. Will it be more evident that Rosario is not quite nailing it? But is it just harder because it's a different character? Because she's really just, if you're going younger, you just got to impersonate the cartoon, and now you're going to someone who's older and wiser and stuff. I get that, but
Yeah. Older, wiser, seen a lot of stuff. Her former master was Darth Vader. That would, I'm sure, affect you. So, yeah, a lot of stuff going on. But,
so what else? Like, I liked going back to Corellia. I was like, oh, Corellia, like from Solo, a Star Wars story. I remember that. And I did like all of that they were just basically going, oh, everything's kind of the same. We've just, all the people who had the jobs, the Imperial jobs, we've just given them a new uniform and it's essentially the same. We just hope for the best.
Well, I was thinking that even in that first little bit with the ship being, and with that ship and all the crew going, the rebellion, yes, it was big by the end of Return of the Jedi, but was it being able to man all of these new ships big? And obviously, no, it wasn't that big because, they have to just go, yep, you were Imperial, but you've done the program, you've said the right things to that droid in that office, like Dr. Pershing did. Come join
But
us.
even that, like, that's only for probably the people who are in the military side of it. The rest of it's just like a change of letterhead. Like, it's just a rebrand where it's going, well, you used to work for the shipyards under the Empire, and now you work for the shipyards under the Rebellion. Like, we're not deprogramming you. You were just sort of, this is better. Isn't this better? You probably get more breaks and a longer lunch break and so on and so forth. You got a few more colours in your uniform and things. But yeah, it's an interesting sort of idea. Although I think that those people in that shipyard play their hand pretty quick. That guy just leapt. He's like, for the Empire. He's like, they probably could have bluffed their way out. They got them out the door or something and been like, all right, well, let's just try and stall them a little bit to get the ship away, and we'll play dumb.
Maybe not cry out right then, but
as soon as you yell out for the Empire, you've probably outed yourself.
Yes, but having that. Well, yes, we've still got to employ the same people because there's no one else. And overall, they don't really care who the big management is, doesn't really affect their lives. I think that's closer to the truth of what actually happens, like in real life and things. But also, then you think back to the special edition ending of Return of the Jedi with the celebrations on Coruscant. And you go, nah, that wouldn't have happened. I'm sorry, I'm still crossed about that special edition change, that and getting rid of Yub Nub.
Look, it's an interesting sort of thread to pull, and it's cool to see that, like to see that sort of all bubbling away underneath the surface and stuff as well. And that basically the New Republic's got no idea. They're like, we've kind of, we've gone in and replaced the very top tier of government, so it's not the Emperor anymore. It's whoever's in charge. Mon Mothma with a couple of senators, and we brought the Senate back. But basically everything from the third level down is pretty much as it was, unless we've got some real troublemakers, and we'll lock them up. Apart from that, it's just like I said, it's a change on the letterhead, and we've just taken one of the signs off the top and put the other one back up.
Yeah, I do like that little streak of cynicism, in the Star Wars, like showing that yes, like, yeah, we've changed the letterhead, but you know, we just have to deal with what's here. Not everyone's the idealistic rebellion. Yeah, they're just there for, well, the money or the job.
Mm.
Got to put food on the table.
Do you think did you find it weird? Maybe it's just because I'm so raised on those movies. Just the fact that there's just like a Jedi walking around, just dealing, like hanging out with the government, doing a job with the government. People don't really seem to bat an eyelid. Like Star Wars was so about like there are no Jedis. That here is a Jedi Knight. You must defeat Vader. The emphasis on Luke was so strong that you're the one who has to do this. The rebellion's gone, Obi-Wan's gone, all this sort of thing, and living in this dark time. And
Yep.
and it just feels like Luke's just a Jedi kind of over here. Ahsoka's just kind of Ahsoka around. I don't know. Maybe that would be maybe the same in the old EU books. I suppose he rebuilds the Order. They're just kind of around. It just sort of feels weird that they're just kind of there. Does that seem strange? Like, do you know what I get? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, because during the movies, it's implied, well, yeah, Luke's the only Jedi. He's the only one that they know about. Leia says that he has powers she would never understand. So, and no one knows what a Jedi is, basically.
mm.
And yet, yeah, Ahsoka's just, talking to lots of bigwigs. Admittedly, she knew a lot of them during the war, like Clancy Brown. Come on, Clancy Brown.
I just maybe
makes it.
It's sorry to interrupt. Maybe it's just because they're not all hanging out together that it seems weird. Like I would just in my brain would go, okay, there was this Jedi Order. We had the Jedi Order in the Phantom Menace and those films, and there's a whole bunch of them, and they all stick together, and there's an order, and the order gets wiped out, and then Luke comes out of the ashes, saves the day, and now there seems to be sort of random Jedi kind of floating around. It just seems strange that they don't all have a central base of operations, and they all feel like they're all just kind of randomly doing their own thing. Like it feels like this Balin guy's he's just a mercenary for hire. It just seems strange that would be his thing. It just sort of feels like, why wouldn't they all have banded together, said the Jedi can come out of hiding, the Empire's gone, we're all going to start a little crew. Like I didn't know in The Force Awakens, it just feels like it's all, because Luke's temple's burnt down, they've all kind of got to start from scratch again. But I don't know, it feels like that's what Luke should be doing. Like, shouldn't Luke have a base of operations or the renew or something? It just feels like, wouldn't you go kick him out of the Jedi, like get the Jedi Temple out again and have everybody operating out of there? And
Well, with Balin, I sort of feel that, okay, he survived Order 66 somehow, and it was implied he was a Padawan or at least young-ish during that.
Well, he feels like he's older than Anakin, though. So if Anakin is early 20s when he turns to Vader, and Anakin would be, if he was alive, would be, I don't know, probably late 40s.
Yeah.
And it feels like Ray Stevenson's at least 10 years older than that.
Yeah. So he somehow survived Order 66, and he hasn't been heard from since, because otherwise because it was in the way they were talking about him, it was implied that they thought he was dead. So maybe he survived, and then that got him angry, or in a state of mind where he was turning to the dark side somewhat, or at least wanting power so that could never happen again. To be honest, I'd be not happier, but I'd be really far more interested if he was a Jedi who started to turn before Order 66, and yes, survived Order 66. He was still nominally part of the Jedi Order, but then that turned him even harder.
He saw the writing on the wall and kind of got out of there, kind of thing.
Yeah, he saw the writing on the wall, saw the flaws within the system, and
it'd be quite good if he was
did what he had to do.
If he was on like the Battle of Geonosis, where all those Jedi died, and he's just gone, I ain't fighting this. Like, this is dumb. Like, I'm not getting involved. We all went out there and we all got killed, and now you want us to go out there and fight another war? Like, you can get this ain't what I'm about. Something like that'd be quite interesting. But they all just feel like they've got a convenient excuse not to get together. So, like, Ahsoka's technically not quite a Jedi anymore. He's not technically quite a Jedi anymore. Luke is a Jedi, but he's not from the Order. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just poking holes. We'll see where they end up. I feel like the good thing about this, and it does really feel like it's got a through line plot. Every episode is leading towards something. I don't think there's going to be any chuffer. I think it's all going to sort of, it's going to be an 8-episode story arc. It's going to be pretty focused. Yeah, I feel like it's good. Like I said, I think some of the pacing's weird. It definitely got better in the second episode. I'm missing some of the other crew. I don't know if they're all going to get back together, but you need a bit of Zeb in there. It does feel like, even missing Ezra as well for that little bit that we saw. So that's implied that that's him, obviously, before he goes off with the space whales as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, that somehow he knew that was going to happen. I think that's implied at the end of Rebels. I didn't rewatch Rebels. That's what that message is almost implying, that he knows something's about to happen.
Well, didn't he plan it? He brought the whales in. So was that his plan all along? I have to go back and rewatch.
How far in advance did he know that was going to happen? To get the whale, I don't know. But he knew something was going to happen to leave a message like that. Anyway. But I want to see Chopper moving around. I want to see the ghost, because we just saw the little
phantom,
detachable phantom, and of course that then begs the question: where's Jason Syndulla?
Well, he wouldn't be at work. You don't take your kid to work day. He's probably at school or doing something else. Mum's out. Mum's working. So I assume that he's just back at he's doing his studies or whatever it is. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. He's going to turn up at some. I think we're all pretty clear he's going to turn up at some point. So
with whatever color hair he wants.
Yeah. Well, Sabine, she had her hair and then she cut her hair. She did a pretty good job with a knife with that haircut too. But she sort of just stood there and sliced the ponytail off and just went, "Oh, yep, nicely styled. Like I've just come off, someplace off Chapel Street."
I have to admit, I was waiting for the ponytail to come down next on the little table thing next to the knife.
Oh, yeah.
Things. But no, I'm not going to be cutting my hair with a knife anytime soon.
No.
So, no.
I thought maybe it would have been funny if he got the knife and she just cut the fringe. She's like, "Oh, I like that fringe that scary looking lady had. I think I'll get down with that. Like I've got a cool fringe going on." What else happened in this? I'm just thinking of points of note. Well, obviously we didn't see Thrawn yet, so they're holding their powder on that. Whether it's at the end, I don't know.
So Clancy Brown.
Now, which one was Clancy Brown? Was he the?
He was Clancy Brown. He was the guy on Lothal who had the. What's his name? Isn't it Clancy?
Was he the guy who was hosting the ceremony?
Yeah.
He's the guy that Matt was messaging me about. Going, he was the guy from Mandalorian, and he did. Yeah, right. He had the beard and everything.
Yeah, because he voiced a character on Rebels.
I think it's the same character, I believe.
Yeah.
So he's got to live action it.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, he's done the jump, which no one else has. I liked the droids walking around. I thought the David Tennant droid looked good.
Mm-hmm.
Like it didn't look too CGI. The some of the fighting droids looked a bit CGI, but overall they looked good. And yes, Loth Kitty was adorable.
Yeah, that looked
not
very
enough
good.
pats. Not enough.
Should have just been an extra half an hour of just patting the Loth cat. What do you think of the Loth cat food Is it dry food? Does your cat do
Yeah.
dry or do wet canned food?
Oh, he does both because he is best boy.
Okay.
Um,
I know I'm potentially opening opening a rabbit hole here.
but I was okay. So part of me, you know how Sabine had the bag when she was walked onto Ahsoka's ship at the
Are you
end?
hoping the
I
cat
was
was in
half
there?
expect, yeah, that the cat would just put his head out and go "Roo" at the end.
It could happen still.
Um,
There's plenty of room on that
yeah,
ship.
yeah,
It's a pretty sparse
and
ship, like I said.
I'm like, well, who's looking after Loth Kitty? You know, you can't leave the poor thing alone. It's had a big scare with the droids. And, you know, good kitty for hissing and not just running away like my Jack would.
Well, there you go.
Mm.
Maybe get yourself a loth cat. That's what's next. No, I thought that held up pretty well. They've done that one. That was one of them in something. They did a live action. Was it one of the Mandos they did an episode with a loth cat?
I don't think they've actually been to Lothal, so
Maybe
it
it
wouldn't
wasn't
have been
technically.
a Loth cat.
It was
Loth
some
cat.
other cat looking thing.
Yeah, but you know, they've spent a lot of time with the Loth cat, and we got a lot of like close-ups and things, and yeah, it looked good. I want to pat him.
Just as we were talking, my friend Sean, who's been on the show before, just texted me going, "Good start for Ahsoka, killer cast," and he hates everything. So there you go. That's got Sean's stamp of approval. So she's like, "Come on the podcast and talk about it." He just bought a new sound bar, so I think he's just cranking this, and he doesn't have any children in his home, so he can have it as loud as he likes. So where are we going from here, Catherine? We've got Sabine and we've got Ahsoka in the ship, ready to hit the road. They're obviously going to go to this planet where they've kind of figured out holds a bit of a secret on things. When are we going to get Zeb in this thing?
Zeb, I don't know. Like, is he fully ensconced in the New Republic? And let's talk real world for a second. He's hard to do. Like, his CGI is hard.
Yeah. So it's going to be done
sparingly
with impact. Do we? I mean, I'm hoping that. I think I spoke about this last week. That I hope that the plot directly involves Baylan and Anakin in some respect, or there is some kind of connection there, so it gives you a reason to bring Anakin into the story naturally, rather than her just going, "Oh, remember the time Anakin told me to train well? Now I'm going to train well." You know what I mean? Like, so she's not just thinking about going, "Oh, remember that time he told me to jump up and do a special flip, and lucky I remember now to do that special flip because Anakin taught me that." Like, I don't want. Like, I'd like it to actually be more going, Anakin and I were actually Jedi. He, blah, blah, blah. He did this, or here's just something about him you might not know, or blah, blah, blah. Or we had a relationship. When I found out that he was Darth Vader, that's what pushed me over the edge, or whatever. I saw him killing a bunch of people, or bring him in somehow into this, or he knew about the world between worlds, or some kind of thing. Bring it in, make it sort of make sense. And I think Dave's got the foresight to do that, and I think that bring that in kind of naturally. Well, it'll be good.
Yeah, you're right. Like, have it coming as part of the backstory properly, and not just happens to be there. So it makes it meaningful. The ring with the hyperspace engines.
Oh, it's like the big. It's just like a big one from the Jedi Starfighters. They've just made a really big one.
Yeah. Yeah, I did do a hyperspace ring point.
It's like a mega one. It's just like if you want a super hyperspace, you've got to get a super hyperspace ring.
Yeah, so that looked cool, and I did sort of like the idea that in these shipyards that they'll just be building stuff.
Yeah, they could just build this thing and just ship it off, and nobody's asking too many questions. There isn't a hell of a lot of oversight going on. On there, which was quite funny. Yeah,
just trusting that. Yep, all's fine.
I did like that droid that kind of ratted them out at the dockyard, just like, "Oh, I saw an assassin droid, by the way," and it wouldn't let me. It's like such a protocol droid move, Yeah, and I did like that. I think that was one of Hera's best moments too. She's going, "Yeah, I think I've got clearance. Like, I'm the general. I am the clearance. Like, hi, come on."
Yep.
how we are here. But yeah, look, I think a pretty strong start. I think you get a lot more of that if you're obviously a Rebels fan. I think if you're a general Star Wars fan, I think there's enough there. If you're just someone who's watched Mando for Baby Yoda and you're coming in pretty dry, I don't know if you're going to get a lot out of it. I think the plot's interesting and compelling enough that you'll go, let's see where this goes. But you're not certainly, it's certainly skating on a lot of like, I know these people, I know this relationship, I know the history, I know where it could go, and I know the potential because I know that they might show Anakin and they might show this and they might show this and they might show this.
Yeah. Yeah. So to make my first Anakin Andor mention of the night, I'd like to, for the record, you mentioned Andor before I did. So Andor, really, we only had one character that was known before. Everyone else is new, so it wasn't just bringing in relationships or people from before and having to reintroduce them or have that implied back history. So everyone was pretty much on the same equal footing and so from my opinion, you could sort of come in going, okay, this is the story of this person who becomes part of the Rebel Alliance and follow his story. Whereas with this, there's a bit more back history there. I hope that there's enough of the story or at least cool action scenes that people go, I'll tune in again next week and check it out. But it's hard for us to judge whether you can walk in with zero knowledge.
Yeah, which is why I'm thinking I might see if I can get Kat to watch it. She didn't actually even watch Mando season 3, and she likes a bit of Baby Yoda, but it didn't quite line up. It was really just because we were doing the shows, and I was like, I've got to watch it now, and I've got to record. So if you're not ready now, I'll have to do it later. And then of course she's like, well, I'll just get around to it. So she's in the other room right now watching. I think that Sex and the City came back. We got another Sex and the City show or something. So
yeah, no, I've cut the
cord, cut the carry cord.
Didn't watch a minute of this new this new show, and I'm happy I haven't.
Right. Well, see, I haven't seen. I had seen all the original Sex and the City, so I do know the characters. Yeah. So in that case, I could walk into it. But again, with this, I don't know. I think she might watch the first one, but I've got a feeling that it's been a long day, and I could look over and she'd just start like nodding off on the couch and stuff. But that happens a lot anyway.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think we could wrap it up here. We'll be back next week to talk episode 3. Whatever that's going to be called. And again, they didn't put the chapter titles in the thing either. I didn't feel like there was anything particularly spoilery why they didn't put them in. Was it Master and Apprentice and Toil and Trouble or something?
And Toil and Trouble. Well, the Toil and Trouble, it implies witches from Macbeth, so maybe leaving that out.
Yeah, that's true.
Is not the worst. But that's sort of what they've tended to do. They've tended to call things just episode numbers.
And then when they get to the end, it's sort
for a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, same time next week. We'll see if we can get Matt in. We might have some other guests who are going to come along if they can. Thanks for everybody for listening. Actually, next week is going to be episode 200 of this podcast.
Oh boy!
So it's a bit weird because a lot of some of the blog pods on previous celebrations weren't counted as a single episode. They were 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and I just gave up on that because it was too much mucking around. So we've actually far exceeded the 200th, but this is the numbered 200th episode next week. So it is going to be a recap. I could try and message Darren Hayes again, see if he'll come on and do it, but he's not on Twitter anymore. He's a bit hard to get in touch with. But we'll stick with this and we'll roll on. So 200 will be 200 in the bag next week. It'll probably just be able to be mentioned. But thank you everybody for listening. Thank you, Catherine, as always, for being available.
Yep, it's all good. I leave my Wednesday night free as much as I can for this, so because I enjoy doing it. Great host, 200 episodes, woohoo!
I know, goodness me. Thanks for doing it. It's appreciated, and people, you're definitely part of this this series. It can't be done without you. So thanks everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.